This is my new car, the VL Commodore. Now, you might see the front half and think this is pretty fogged out, but I can assure you this is basically 90% of a complete car, and it is really clean. Under all the dust and grime is a really nice example of what a VL Commodore is. Now, I only introduced a new car to the channel a few months ago, the EB Fem one, and like that car, I only bought this one right now because the opportunity came up and the price was right. I've actually never owned an 80s car, or a Commodore, or a Holden for that fact. I'm much more of a Ford man, which might annoy a few people, but I just prefer Fords. But I will say, these VLs are a beautiful shape. So, before we get started, only Aussies are gonna know what this car is, and some New Zealanders. This is, like I said, a VL Commodore made by Holden. Now, Holdens were all about what Aussies want in that time. V8s, or massive V6s, and just about going fast with massive engines. This one is a bit of an outlier. See, under the hood of this is an engine known as RB30, and if you're into Japanese cars, you'll know exactly what that is. The 3-litre inline 6. Now that's what this car comes with. There were turbo options, this isn't one of them. This is just a naturally aspirated RB30. And the RB30 was actually featured in cars like the R31 GTR Skyline. And then a Holden Commodore. So yeah, it was the only Commodore ever made to have a turbo in it from factory, along with the V8 and obviously the naturally aspirated one. And I think they're just excellent engines, and lucky enough this car has that engine, but it's just not in the car. It's actually sitting right over there, but we'll get into that later. The Holdens. This is a go for all the Holden ranges, Commodores and Calais. There was a sedan version and then the wagon version. The wagon and sedan are pretty similar, obviously. So there's two different model options, the sedan and wagon, that was it. This is obviously the sedan version. And then in those, you could either get an executive, which was the base model, a Berliner, which is what I have featured here, and those are the only Commodores. Then, on the other side is the Calais, which is its own name, the Holden Calais. Again, you can get that in a sedan, which is what most of them came in, and a few of them did come in wagons for a very short period of time. On top of that is the most iconic run of cars for Australia ever made, which is the SS. That was the Holden Commodore SS, the sportiest version. Then, there was the SS HDT. So the HDT was basically the Commodore SS sent to a dealership, then they tuned it, hotted it up, gave it a body kit, a better tune, whatever, and they called it the HDT. And then that was used for racing. That's called the SS Group A HDT, the holy grail of VLs. This one's just a Berliner, not exactly a base model, but nothing crazy special. And then paired with the RB30. Now, just to quickly go over the executive and Berliner, just so you know the difference. It's pretty simple. They're all share 90% of the body parts, even through the Calais. The executive is just a complete base model, meaning you get no AC, no power windows, no power anything, right? It's just really base, kind of cheaper interior. Whereas a Berliner, still pretty base model, nothing crazy special, still has wind up windows, had a lot more factory options, so you could actually choose to get that in your car. But you know what, I'm not too worried about that. That was like 30 plus years ago. In today's thing, it doesn't really matter if it's whatever model, they're all about the same. Except for Calais, they're worth a fair bit more money, and it's more because of the rare factor side of things. That's enough about VL Holdens for you international viewers or people who are interested. Let's take a look at the car I've actually bought. Now I am standing right on the ugly side of this car. That's the beautiful side, this is the ugly side. And I want to go over the pros and cons of the entire car, because to be honest, I just towed this straight here. It was sitting in a garage for 20 plus years and probably hasn't moved for like 30. So this is as much of a surprise to me as it is to you guys. The pros of this car. Now you got to remember this is a 35-year-old car or something crazy like that. So, you know, you get what you pay for, and I paid a really good dollar figure, and it's been sitting for a long time. So right off the bat, the pros of that is there's little to no rust at all. The only rust is very surface rust, and under the car is very straight. In fact, the entire car is extremely straight because it hasn't been able to get scrapped up or anything because it's been sitting for so long. Pro number 2 is the paint. Well, 3/4 of it anyway. Under all this grime is actually a really nice red, but I don't know that for sure, but from what I have seen, it does look extremely clean. On top of the paint is just the body in general. Everything looks clean. The tail lights aren't cracked, which is very rare. All the badges look intact. The bumpers all look fine. There's no paint fade. It just looks really nice and straight. For 3/4 of it anyway. And here we are with the cons. Now it might look like this car is just a massive driving con. Well, actually it doesn't drive at all. But the point is, it looks bad, but it's actually really alright. The front half has clearly been rubbed back for some reason, but as I look around it, it looks all straight. It just needs a respray. Simple as that. Maybe some sanding down and then a respray. Probably only the front quarter. That's the biggest con of this car. Except for that, there's a lot of things that are kind of missing. Even though it's 90% complete, that 10% is pretty big. Stuff like this, the tail lights, you know, that's pretty expensive stuff nowadays. Luckily, shout out to Rare Spares, there are a lot of sites out there that sell these kind of things that are like second-hand new kind of deal. So it's easy to obtain, it's just kind of expensive. Not too bad, but it's still expensive. Other than that, that's probably the major con of this car. Other than that, there's like holes in the rear quarter panel where they used to pull out dents. That's how they used to do it 25 years ago. But I'm sure a bit of bog and I'll fix that right up. Shouldn't be too much of a drama. This is a budget car, so it'll be fixed on a relative budget, but it's all really straight. There's not much money that probably needs to be spent. Except for that stuff, this car is a bit of a mess. The interior's got a lot of stuff in it, and you know, the engine's not even in the car, neither is the subframe, or an exhaust, or the diff, or any of that. I think the diff's in actually, but that's about it. So that's all a con, but the pro of that is, I still have it. It's sitting right over there on a crate, all the parts, the engine, the transmission. And then there's heaps of parts inside the car, which are just a mystery. I don't even know what they are. I haven't even looked yet. The engine bay, it's empty. There's not even a subframe, like I said. There's nothing actually. So yeah, that's a massive con obviously. But right there is the RB30 and the transmission. Only issue is, I have no idea if either of them work. And considering it's outside the car, I don't really like the chances that either of them run properly, the transmission or the engine. So that's a pro and a con in itself. I have no idea. I bought this car under the assumption that the engine and transmission didn't run at all. So if it does, it's a bonus and I'm just happy to have them. But yeah, look, under the engine bay, it's very straight. All the rails are very clean straight. I'm guessing this car's probably never been in an accident. And because everything's out, it gives me a perfect chance to paint the bay. I'll probably do a really rough job of that and a cheap job, but you know, I'll make a video on it and it's a good opportunity to do so. I'm going to drop this bonnet because it's heavy as. So as I was talking about before, here is the engine and the transmission. I've just got it wrapped so that water doesn't get on it. And just so you guys know, for you guys that are worried, it's under 2 car covers. And then below that is all the other stuff. So I have the subframe. I actually have 2 subframes. It came with the car. This is my first look at the VL's interior. Now, it might not look like much to start off with and look like a hot mess, but under all that mess is actually what I care about. No cracks in the dash, steering wheel doesn't look filthy at all. It's got the right instrument cluster I like to see and everything. Even the rest of the interior looks really nice, you know? Like just having a look at the driver's seat, there's nothing wrong with it. You know, it's missing an airbag, but that's it. Even up here, you know, the dash has no cracks. It's a complete interior, which I like. And as you can see, there's a lot of random stuff and spare parts. And I don't even know what half this stuff is, but you know, when I go through it, it's really good to have all these. Coming into the back, it's the same story. You know, it's really clean. It's been sitting for a long time and there's no mold, which I care a lot about. But yeah, I like the look of what I'm seeing. All this stuff in the back wasn't factored into the price really. I just bought the car for what it is, and as you can see, there's a lot of extra stuff. So yeah, that's the interior. It's nothing special, but it's complete. Now, one thing about this car, which is a complete mystery, is what's in the boot. It didn't come with keys, this car, which sounds sus, but yeah, I can't get into the boot, so I'm gonna try and get to the back seats, or see if there's any way from the front to get in. But yeah, I can't access it, and I would love to know what's in it. It could be extremely rusty, or it could have the headlights this car's missing. I have no idea. At the audio, how many Ks does this thing have? 202,000 kilometers, not too bad. But look at that. Very nice, very clean. Electric mirrors, you know, it looks very tidy. I'm very, very happy with this interior and the condition it's in. Now, you might be thinking, Max, there should be a lever to undo the boot. I can't see any here, but I think that these cables here might be for the boot. I've tried tugging at both of them, nothing happens. So I'm assuming I'm just gonna have to go through the back seats, which isn't the biggest deal. Now real quick, before I hunt my way into the back seats, I'm gonna have a really quick look to see if I can find these keys. I really hope I can, but we'll see. What a mission it was to get into the rear, but I did. And it's open. You know what? I'm really happy with what's in here. A lot of stuff could have been empty. Hubcaps, spare wheel, trim pieces, a jack. Looks good, looks clean. That was the outcome of having to get in, just smashed it in. But you know what? I'm happy with that. I'm happy with what came out of it. This was also in it as well. It ain't much, but you know what? It's extra pieces which I need. Alright, so that's my VL. You know, it's not bad, not complete, but I think for what it is, I got a lot of parts and a lot of work ahead of me, and I think it will make a great series. And for the price I paid, I cannot complain whatsoever. Stay tuned for the next video where I clean this up.